Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Friday webinar. We got a full house today. I don't know if we've had this many people in a long time. We've got some very special guests today with us. And if you're tuning in, you're at the topic of the day we're going to be going over the Phoenix Landing Wellness Retreat. Give you a behind the scenes tour of what that is, what goes into putting that great event on, and the people involved. Who we have with us today. So let's see. Let's go through our introductions. You guys want to go through let's start with we'll go let's go Anne, Susan, and then Lisa. You guys want to do a brief intro of you all? So everybody see.
Sure, I'll share screen and then Susan and I can talk about the organization. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Great. So if you're not already familiar, Phoenix Landing is now 22 years old, and we're a volunteer organization. And our mission involves many things, mostly helping parrots, wild and captive. So we do a lot of different things. First of all, adoption. We serve a fairly significant part of the East Coast. We try to go wherever we have trusted agents. But within those boundaries, we can't go much farther because it's quality over quantity, you know. But we have rehomed over 3,300 birds as of last month, which is pretty good. And we always have quite a few birds waiting for our help. That doesn't include the people who have asked us to be ready to help should they need us in the future, you know, like in a state capacity. So it's always a lot of birds waiting for our help, especially those darn male cockatoos. They have to wait a long time sometimes for help. And then, of course, once they come into our system, we take responsibility for them for life. So there's some birds in our system that have already had maybe their fourth home through us because life changes, right? No guilt, things happen. People need to rehome their birds, and we're glad that they speak up when that's important for the welfare of the bird. So, and I'm on a personal mission, have been for years, to not use the word rescue when possible. Save that for those really dire circumstances, because birds do usually need a new home. And when we use those, you know, labels that sound so negative and highly charged, that makes people think, oh, I'm just going to go get a young bird because that older bird is too much trouble. And frankly, that's not what we find. We find that they are very adaptable. We kind of forget where they came from, frankly. And so it's really important that we promote adoption as a positive thing and not a negative thing. So I just try to avoid those labels that make it seem like it's not a good idea. So. And then thanks to Dr. Orosz, who's here today, our neuroanatomist. She had this, you know, brain child that she created, the wellness retreat, which we're going to talk about in more detail. But we just finished one up in Asheville. It was our 6th one. We have another one planned for the future. But because of COVID, she also had this brain child that we have some on Zoom. So we do those as well, including one coming up in October. And all our wellness retreats have CEUs for veterinarians and vet techs, so that's a great opportunity for them to do that. And Dr. O is going to talk about more why she had this idea in a minute. But let me just finish by saying education, education, education.
Right.
If anybody says to us, I've had birds a long time, I already know everything, we're like, you're the one that probably needs to go to a class more than anybody else, because thank goodness avian medicine, avian welfare is improving every day, and we're learning more and more about how to make life better for them in captivity. So because again, you know, one of the upsides of COVID and having to go online, if our speakers agree, we like Lafeber, we record those and put them on our website. So not only do we have new ones coming up, but we have older ones online too. And then lastly, we support conservation, because, right, who's going to do that if not parrot people? So not only do we support with donations, but we have eco tours. And thanks to Lafeber, I write a a blog post every month or so, and that's accompanied by a donation from Lafeber to that project, so that we can highlight, especially some of the smaller projects out there doing good work that people don't hear about. So, and I like to turn it over to Dr. O to talk about why she had this brilliant idea of having wellness retreats. But I'll go back to that slide.
Yeah, go back to this. That's great. That's great, Anne. So as Anne indicated, a long time ago, I guess it's a long time now, she invited me out to come speak with a caveat of, and Liz Wilson will be there for the weekend. And
Liz
so
introduced us. Yes, she did.
yeah. And so that was really an amazing time. For those of you who knew Liz, you know, she was salty and crusty. She knew a lot about birds, and like me, she never stopped learning about birds. And we owe her a debt of gratitude, because she, you know, maybe she didn't do everything right, but none of us do everything right. And but she did a lot of great stuff. And so she was initially a veterinary technician. She worked at the University of Pennsylvania for a while. I'm not sure if she did that the whole time, but then she got really involved in trying to teach us all about behavior of birds. And so she and Chris Davis are kind of like some of the original people. And so there was this time when everyone was just wanting, to the very depth of their soul, down to their toenails, to learn about parrots, because we knew nothing. We kind of used the chicken as a model for birds, for parrots, I should say. And we didn't even know what to call parrots. We, you know, exotic pets, or, you know, there's a variety of thoughts about how to describe them. And so we were hanging on to everybody's words. You know, some of the original people were Dr. Lafeber, and that's kind of how I got involved in this. And he came to Ohio State, and he stood up there, and he's tall and slender, and he had his little bow tie on. He just started talking, and it was magical. It was magical. And he, you know, and you're a vet, and you think, oh, birds, you know, I don't know anything about birds, and I don't know anything about their anatomy and their physiology. And I certainly knew that nobody knew anything about their anatomy and physiology, because I tried to figure that out. I wanted to do an internship at the San Diego's, well, I wouldn't call it an internship, I call it a preceptorship, something you do before vet school, before you finish vet school. And I wanted to do something really kind of basic, which was to try to understand the anatomy of the wings of birds, so that we could have a better idea how to do surgical approaches. And that's kind of what I'm working on with this book that I'm rewriting. But there stood Dr. Lafeber, you know, here I've been working on this project, come back, and there he is. And he says, you know, you can do this. And he inspired confidence, just like Liz inspired confidence that we could do this, but we didn't know anything, and we all got together. You know, it was a togetherness thing. We got to figure this out. We got to learn about this. And so there were, at that time then, the beginnings of the Association of Avian Veterinarians, and they were starting up. And so what they wanted to do is go around the country and kind of have some kind of mini seminars. And then about that time, there was kind of a branch, which kind of is the area where Anne's group draws from, that along the coast, the Atlantic seaboard coast. And this was called the Mid-Atlantic, I can't exactly remember the title, but Mid-Atlantic Vets, Exotic Animal Vets, or AAV, Mid-Atlantic AAV. And so they had these marvelous weekends. What was marvelous about it? It was a chance for people not to give a 15-minute scientific synopsis, but typically maybe an hour. And they could, they would select speakers for this. And one of them I did with Dr. Ruddig early on, and we spent 4 hours on the wing of birds. I would get him to talk about the anatomy. He then would talk about what he thought about surgical approaches and what worked for him and what didn't work for him. And all this was a fermenting period of time. And at the same time, we had a lot of what I call bad birdie diseases. We had a lot of disease of killing parrots, killing them. And so everybody needed to learn about that. The owners needed to learn about that, the veterinarians and the veterinarian technicians. So this Mid-Atlantic States vet group, we would have a weekend, which I thought was great. You come in on a Friday, you had a Saturday and Sunday, and you had sessions, and some of them you could go to a lab, but you could talk to people, you could interact with them so much better in this type of a space. And so from, we were talking with Ann sitting there with Liz, and I kind of thought, man, we need to go back and do that. We need to have this opportunity for people to get together, bring out ideas, ask questions, come up with new thought processes to help what we now call companion birds, our companion parrots. And we didn't even have that word then. And so that started our wellness retreats. And, a good thing is great, but don't do too much of a good thing. So that's one of the reasons why we have to do, we do it every other year, so we don't lose that. But in between, COVID taught us something else. So what COVID taught us is that we had to use Zoom. And it's not that, it doesn't, you can't sit down and share a beer with somebody and have a nice chat about, psittacosis or companion parrot flying. I mean, Lisa's going to talk about that. Hopefully soon. I mean, she's talking about it right now. But but the Zoom offered another option. Zoom allowed us to get a whole bunch of people who are interested in different parts of the world. And then we could record it so that you could go back, and you could watch it and listen to it again. Some of them, not all of them, because some of our speakers won't let us do that. But it opens up this door to increase our parrot people. I'm not going to just call them parrot people, to kind of see and learn and interact and think about those ideas. So it's really, I think, a great thing, not to be replaced by having a retreat where we can sit down and we can talk about things and we can interact and people can ask questions and you can get different answers. Different answers.
You know what, Susan, one of the reasons you've had this idea too was because we brought together a lot of people in the veterinary community to kind of replace that regional AAV meeting,
Right.
But we also made it available to the general public so that there was,
Right.
They got a chance to kind of have a quasi AAV attendance on a more, regular general public
Right.
way.
And so we included, like you say, and the other thing for all the bird owners out there, and that's what we call it parrot people, is that we learned that we were all parrot people. And some of us were vets and some of us were vet techs and some of us were owners and some of us were behaviorists and some of us were wildlife conservationists, but we were all parrot people. And by including, and that's what Ann and I try to do, Ann's better at that part, is getting people that are in different flavors, so to speak. It's like the village, you need the whole village to make it work. And so we added beyond just the veterinary topics, like was originally designed for the Mid-Atlantic States AAV. So that's kind of how we kind of came up with this. Maybe before, I don't know how far along we are at this whole thing, but before I had to go chase after my dogs, one of the things that I was thinking about that I kept bringing up to Anne for this last one, and we did a little bit more of that, was to kind of go back to some of these things that we tend to miss out on. It's fun to make toys. It's great, and we need to learn about flying, because Lisa probably went and listened to my lecture about geriatric birds, and since I'm an old bird myself, I realize just how important exercise is. And one of the things that I'd like to just kind of, because we're kind of chatting away here, one of the things that I want to bring out to people is your length of life, whether it's you or your bird, is partially reflected in two things: what you eat and the amount of exercise and what kind of exercise you do. I was just at physical therapy this morning. So I know, and it's very frustrating when they ask you to do things that you would have thought 20 years ago, you thought, are you really, are you kidding me? You want to have me do this? Like, how stupid is that? So our birds, they've been sitting around on their butts basically, and they weren't designed to do that. They were designed to fly a lot. If you say, oh yeah, my bird flies down the hallway. Great. How about 50 times, and then we're not even scratching the surface. So that's kind of one of the things that the whole, birds, I'm just gonna say this, I don't want to steal Lisa's thunder. Birds they are going to select for fat and protein. And they do that because they're like me. I still think I'm 40, and they ask me to do something, and I go, oh, sure, I can do that. Like hell, I can do that. I can't do that. I said, okay, Doctor, come up to the barn loft, and I want to show you some stuff. And I got part way up, and I said, shit, I can't climb these stairs, Are you kidding me? And so our brains think one thing, and in the case of the bird, it's like, oh yeah, I got to have that fat and protein, man. I got to have it because I'm going to fly for 4 hours. Well, but they're not, right? But they're still programmed to think that they're going to do that. So that's one of the things that I want to bring on. And the other thing that we added in here in this last time, what I talked about that I think is we really need to think about more of, and it's not fun, it's not exciting, but it's important. And that is, you got to learn about the bad birdie diseases. You just got to learn about them. You don't want your bird to have them. I know that. None of us do. But you have to be a little more savvy. We put some stuff in. Dr. Delhausen and Dr. Wade did some things about psittacosis. And so if you were to ask me, if Laura would ask me, or Brenda would ask me, or Anne would ask me, what was really different? So, and I told you all we would hang on what everybody else said because we didn't know a lot, but birds were dying, like a lot. Like I said to vet students and veterinary residents now, the difference is it was kind of like a MASH unit back then. They'd come in and they'd be dead before the end of the day, and you'd be trying all this stuff, and you just had, it was awful. It's awful. But we've gotten better, but that's also because the disease has changed. They're not gone, they just changed. So they don't want to, they realized, as all infectious organisms, they want to kill the host, they want to kill the bird, because then they're dead, right? So they wanted it at first. I remember as a vet student, I walked in the Toledo Zoo, and we walked into the area where the parrots were. Half of them were dead. We walked in there one morning, there were half of them dead. And by the end of the week, they were all dead. You know,
Mhm.
that's kind of where I came from. It kind of a historical thing, but those organisms are still there. They've changed form. And it isn't like PBFD, which is the beak and feather disease virus. That was what killed all those birds at the Toledo Zoo. But it changed form. Now it's sitting there, it's smiling, it's waiting. And it's going to infect that bird. And then it's going to do a little feathered dander. And then it's going to infect the little more birds. And some of them will get full-blown infections. But a lot of them are going to sit there and they're going to smile at you. That includes parakeets, lovebirds, cockatiels. They're going to look fine. But then they give it to other birds that can get sick. So those are some of the things that all bird owners need to think about and get their birds tested and know what they can do and what they can't do. So that's why we added some of that into this session this last time. And as Ann says, the other thing is a lot of these Zoom meetings are online, very important. I encourage all of my clients to become members because I want you, you know, you got to pay a little bit for what you get, and we can't keep this going and we can't run this whole system if we don't have dollars to generate to do it. So that's why we like donations, we like memberships. You know, we need all that.
Yes, and we want to thank Dr. O for being on our board of directors. She's been that since I met her in 2005 in spirit, but we had to wait for a spot to open a few years ago, but she's near and dear to the parrots of Phoenix Landing.
Right. And somebody asked a question. I don't know, Laura, and it kind of went away. So I don't know if I can answer. Should I try to look?
I know Lisa has a presentation about what actually happened at the retreat.
Should we, Laura, should we do that next and then the questions or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you share screen, Lisa, and I'll override mine.
Someone had just asked if a layperson can join the Zoom meetings with Phoenix Landing, or do you have to?
Anybody, anywhere. People come from all over the world. Absolutely.
People, remember parrot people. Anybody who's a parrot person.
Okay. You got some here today with us, so.
Okay, good.
All right, Lisa, do you want to? Do you want to take it over with your presentation? By the way, the history you just took us through, Susan, was just very informative, and just hearing Liz Wilson's name kind of brings a little teary eye because she's such a
yeah, doesn't it? She was wonderful, and the other one that is Dr. Lafeber.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You know, most people know Ted, and so we call him Ted, but what is really amazing is what was Doc. You know, they used to call him Doc, and he inspired a whole bunch of us who are now at the point of number of people have retired. You know, he inspired us to become avian veterinarians, and we all appreciate that. So that's part of the reason for the Lafeber Award that's given out every year. Okay, so I heard that Ann has to stop sharing her screen.
Yes, and we need you to.
Usually you could just override, but go ahead, but I can do that.
Okay.
If you can tell your computer to share screen, because I'm stalled.
Oh, here, I'll do it. Stop participant sharing. Okay, there we go. Got it.
Okay, so let me get here. Move some things around so I could see. And as everybody can tell, part of the reason why I go to the Phoenix Landing every year is because of Susan. No one ever gets tired of listening to her and learning from her. So she is also a very big draw. And I did not know, education. I did not know that Phoenix Landing, the Wellness Retreat, was modeled after the Mid-Atlantic States Association of Avian Veterinarians meeting, because I've been to that too. And now I know why that I like that. So what we're going to do is I did a little presentation. You know me, I'm all about vision. And so I'm going to tell you why I go. I've been to every single one. And in fact, I was so impressed with it. It was the first one I was at. I actually went home and I did a mini one for my clients as well in New Jersey. And it was modeled after the wellness retreat. So, and I did that every year. And the only difference was, you know, what we brought in went to Irene Pepperberg and Alex Foundation. So, so here we go. This is the reason I go every year. So this was June 4th and 5th up in Asheville, which I'm very thankful I'm so close to now. And this was 2020. So I've been to every one. This one was the theme was in sickness and in health. And they've had them all up in Asheville except for one, which was virtual because of COVID in 2020. And as you can see by my little pictures, Phoenix Landing, what they do is they have the different rooms and they'll have speakers in different rooms and they name the rooms after birds. So because I was really missing that getting together and hugging people and sharing things, I wanted to have a little bit of that at my house. So I actually named my rooms and I sat in different rooms for different lectures. So it made me feel like I wasn't missing out on being with everybody.
Well, that's terrific. Lisa, that was really nice. Oh, that's great.
You see my little Liz Wilson room along with some of the things that I won at one of the silent auctions that was hers.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great.
So this was our speaker list this year. And I was so thrilled to see so many of the veterinarians that came in because they were my personal vets as well. And that's another thing, getting together. It's fantastic to see everybody come from around the country to sit there and learn together. You can never learn too much. We also had behaviorists there. We had Deb White from Superbird Toys. You guys heard me talk about them many times. We had Jose, and he was from the Macaw Network, Recovery Network. And Cassie, and Jen are both part of the IABC. They are colleagues of mine. So it's a great, well-rounded event, and you can find something for everybody. So the typical day, I rented an Airbnb. I came by myself this year. I've always come with a bunch of friends. We've always, you know, New Jersey and Connecticut and Florida, we all met together in the middle in Asheville. And this year I went alone, but I can tell you I was not alone because I knew and I met so many wonderful people there. So the schedule is, this was Saturday, you get there around 8:30, you have your check-in and your coffee, you get your little tags, you walk around, you see everybody. At 9 a.m., the introductions start, the welcome, you get told where to go for what room, you're instructed about the silent auction, the people that you can go for help. You have about 15 minutes in between lectures to check your auction items, which were fantastic, they always are. Grab some coffee or some water, use the lab, you know, then you have an hour for lunch, which is also a great time. And the lectures will end at 5, around-ish. So we might go a little bit over depending on the lecture and all the questions. And then the first of 2 auctions are called. And all the proceeds go to help the birds in Phoenix Landing's care. So this was a draft that I got when I signed up. And what I usually, this is an anticipation of what I'm going to see. Now, it can change because of flights, and we had a sick lion this year. So there was a lot of different things that come into play. So this was my draft. I sat there and I checked out all the things that I wanted to go to, and we waited for the updates, and we get the final that day, and then you can compare it to what you want to go. And I was very proud to be able to go this year and take some pictures for Lafeber's. In order to do this webinar. And I've talked with all the people that I was in their lectures. I got permission to use the slides in their pictures to share with you guys. So Dr. Anthony Pilney, he's one of my vets out of New York City. I was thrilled to see him. I haven't seen him since both of us have moved. So he talked a little about changing the perceptions with birds in our care and what is accepted and what really should be accepted, how we need to take care of them, and what we can do to make their lives better. So these are some of his slides, and you're going to see in the red, those are going to be my notes from my notebook. So my takeaways were nothing captive deserves to live in fear. Birds know long before we do what is wrong with them. We have to learn to offer fresh foods beyond the typical diet. Trafficking in rare and exotic wildlife is globally worth 20 billion annually, even though it's supposed to have slowed down or stopped. It's still going on, especially over in Europe. They do a lot of that. So we got Dr. D. He talked about chlamydia, and what I thought was really cool, and what I just realized, is he founded the Veterinary Molecular Diagnostics Incorporated. So he has helped diagnose so many birds. And I think that's really cool that all these vets come out to share their knowledge with us. So some takeaways were the high white blood cell count from 20,000 to 25,000 usually is some sign of an infection. This is, again, is talk with chlamydia or psittacosis. A large spleen can also be part of or show signs of illness. Psittacosis can take 2 weeks to show in the respiratory tract. Chlamydia is stable in our environment. Treatment for most birds are going to be 45 to 60 days, but budgies with the smaller, 30 days is okay.
Yeah, can I jump in there for just for a second, Lisa, and say, Bob is not only a great researcher, so he founded this lab, which is involved with PCR analysis. That was the first one in the country, and he's been very meticulous in doing that type of stuff. So the stuff that you had, the information you presented was some of that original work he did with David Phelan when David was at Texas A&M, and they kind of tracked when the PCR testing would work. And so he has this lab, and he runs a lab, and he helps run all these samples, and he reports and he talks to people on the phone, but he also has his own veterinary practice where he sees birds. So that a lot of people didn't realize that, I don't think, which is an interesting thing. So
yes, I didn't realize he founded the lab or the
aha, see, there you go. Okay, yeah, there you
yes,
go.
when I was looking him up, I did know that he was a practicing vet somewhere, and with my Facebook page, with all my clients, I'll often go on the American Board of Veterinary Practitioners site to refer people to different vets. So I knew he was out by you somewhere in Ohio.
He's in Cincinnati, outside of, Cincinnati, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then another one you're going to show Dr. Wade. She's a new star. I look at her as a star, and we talked her into doing this about chlamydia. So we wanted people to talk. We wanted Dr. Delhausen to kind of give you the nuts and bolts of this organism and how it works, and then we had Dr. Wade kind of give some cases and stuff to talk about what she has done clinically.
And Dr. Wade has been a star in my eyes for 20 years. I met her when she was just starting out at the Animal Medical Center in New York City.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love her and was thrilled she was going to be in person this year. So Dr. Wade did this with Dr. Delhausen, and these are some things I took away. I'll let you say that. Bill Verdinia, did I say that right?
It's Billy Verdinia.
Okay, so
You're close.
Yellow green urates. So
yeah, there you go.
Signs of chlamydia, psittacosis. Not all states require reporting of chlamydia. This is a zoonotic disease, so you can get this from your companion parrot. Now, we thought that it's like this disappeared because we don't hear about it much, but as was said, it's all still around, okay? Oh, I got treatment in there again, disregard that. When you're going through treatment, you want to remove the mineral or calcium blocks during oral meds. Calcium interferes with some of the oral meds. And a lot of follow-up with your vet, once confirmed, is important. I don't want to hear that your bird's looking better or feeling better. Go to your vet. Make sure.
Okay. And before you leave this slide, one of the reasons I felt this was very important to talk about this disease is because this should give you an indicator. I've had it 3 times. And the 3rd time, I almost died. And you can die from this. So I knew I had it. I couldn't get an MD to do something really simple and give me doxycycline. And so I think it's really important that all bird owners are aware that this is a disease that can be picked up. They should not be cavalier about it when they go to the pet store or when they go to other people's homes. So it's something that you got to be really careful of. And fortunately, I had to go to the emergency room, and I asked to have someone bring into the room an infectious disease expert. And I explained to them how I'd gotten this disease. I knew exactly what bird I got it from. It had died. And I had suspected that it had psittacosis. I sent samples to Bob, and about the time they came back was about the time that bird passed away. So then I got exposed. So I was taking care of it at the practice. And then about 30 days later, that's when I got sick. So, and then for those of you who have parrots and chickens, that is a potential issue, because that's when most states are concerned, because they don't want a parrot disease to go into chickens. So that's something that they're very concerned about. Okay, go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I like that you're, chiming in and giving me what we need to follow up on.
Yeah. Oh, there you are with your notes. Love it. I love it.
Typical notes, so I can take them. Of course, when I was going over what I needed to use in the webinar, of course, a lot of it I couldn't even read because I was writing so fast. There's so much information coming at you, and everything is important. So after the second session we were in, it was time for a catered lunch, and you can buy this with your admission ticket, so you don't have to leave. And this is a wonderful time to walk around and see everybody that's there. So like I said, I went alone, but I was not alone. This was everybody there that I already knew, already went out and talked to. We sat, I met new people at lunch. It's a very friendly environment. So, and a part of the Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, I believe the farthest one, I'm not sure where Cassie is from, but Jamie, all the way to the left, she came up from Texas. So I was happy to see her there as well. And down on the bottom, we have a couple of our rescues, and of course, Deb White's there in the middle. So you have rescues, you have vets, you have parrot people, you have everybody there. So, and I had to give a shout out to these 3 because they mean a lot to me from my younger years. I've learned a lot.
Oh, that's a great picture too. That's a great picture.
Yeah, and they've been fantastic to me for the past 20 years, and I love them dearly.
And do you notice that Ann does a good job with each of those, your name badges?
Yes, yes.
And she has a different parrot species for the different people. Mine is the orange-winged Amazon.
Of course.
And you'll see that the typical person that's attending is going to have the white badge, and the speakers are going to have the colored badges. And it's funny to see everybody in their bird gear all weekend long. So on your lunchtime, and in between, when you have your 15 minutes, you can always run in, and this is the supply room. I was going to call it a toy room, but it's so much more than that. So you have a lot of great toys in there. You have books, you have food. A lot of people in there are shopping. You have shirts, there's hats, there's a lot of ways to show your support and bring home some goodies to your birds. And again, all of this benefits Phoenix Landing.
I'll just say that we paid our final bill for the retreat this week and we netted $175. So the auction and the sales and the toy supplies are really what make it possible to offer a low price so that people come to learn. That's what we want. Education, education, education.
That's very important.
Yeah, and in order to get all of these people speaking, you know, they got to fly in, they got to stay there for the weekend. And some of them couldn't make it because of either COVID or flight issues. That's why things get sent around. But Ann is absolutely right. That's why I try to get people to donate money or be members of Phoenix Landing, because we just, you know, we made a couple $100.
Right. Right.
But we had a lot of smart,
Well, we had a
educated
great
people
time.
leave,
We
right?
learned a lot. That's, yeah.
And we had a good weekend. Yeah.
Oh, we sure did. Oh my.
We always
Yeah,
say
we-
we're not going to do another one. And then Susan and I get there and we're like, this is too much fun.
No,
We have to do another one.
Let's do another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a very small sample of the silent auction, because in all my excitement of taking pictures of everybody I haven't seen and parts of the lecture, I forgot to take pictures of the silent auction. So they have people donate things, very unique things, handmade things, things that people have loved and wanted to pass on to somebody else who would enjoy it. It's on the outskirt of 3/4 of the room. And this is where you want to keep checking to make sure you're not being outbid. I was outbid on several things both days, so I'll have to save again for next time. Now, Dr. O said, you know, she thought I came to her older bird lecture, and yes, I did. My oldest bird is 40, and my youngest one is going to be 20. So my big takeaways here, you want to make sure that you're going to your vet for wellness visits, because they're the ones that's going to be checking and making sure that the muscle mass in their chest is good, listening to their air sacs, their lungs, their heart, you know, look at their feet, make sure there's nothing going on, to watch their eyes for cataracts. It's very important because we're not trained to do that. They are. And so it's something that needs to be done. So as she mentioned before, sugars and fats, they are meant for flying. Okay, our guys don't get enough of flight. As bird age, there's a reduction of the pectoral muscle. That's the chest muscle. That's going to help the birds flap their wings. 102 heartbeats per minute is average. Respiration, I believe this should say respiration on an older bird should return to normal within 5 minutes of flight. One thing she also does with her lectures is going to be a lot of different herbals. She doesn't just deal with Western medicine. So she does a lot of holistic stuff as well. And so we've learned about milk thistle and turmeric and ginger and ginseng and hawthorn leaf with flour and different antioxidants. So it's important that if you have a bird that's ill, that you're looking at all different kinds of treatments with the vet that you're working with, because some of the more holistic things might work just as well. I know I've had issues with Emma in the past with her liver, and I'm very familiar with milk thistle. And ginger also helps Emma with her car sickness. So there's a lot of different things that you can work with. And flying jacks up the metabolic rate by 20%. This is important.
No, honey, it's more 20 times.
20 times, okay.
So it's like 200%.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So this is important for the heart, lungs, and brain.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I missed a 0 in my notes.
That's fine. It's fine. But the point is still the same. It's important.
Yep. So then I went to Dr. Wade's lecture on the preen gland, the uropygial, gland, anatomy, diseases, and tail surgery. So in case anybody has any questions, birds can smell. This is a book that Dr. Wade said would be a very good read for us parrot people. So I had a gray that did have an issue with his preen gland many years ago, and Dr. Brown, she was one of the 3 people in the picture. She was actually the treating physician for my guy. He had a blocked preen gland. So I took a lot of interest in this because it's been, I have to go through it. So with the African gray, and Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, I was told that the African gray has a larger preen gland that is more heart-shaped than other species.
Probably. They're going to be a little different based on the species, but it's definitely heart-shaped. It would be the same way in ducks.
Okay. All right. So when females are ready to breed, the gland gets bigger. Dr. Wade thinks that there also might be a source of smell that when the bird is wiping its beak and its head on the preen gland, that is giving off a smell that it might entice a mate. She was going over, she was observing her own bird. I believe the bird's name is Kelly. And they were watching to see what she was doing when she was doing her little mating dance, and rubbing and playing with the preen gland was a big part of that. So trauma with the preen gland, if it gets impacted, can also cause trauma with the tail. And that goes into a whole different lecture with tail things to, what they can do, if a preen gland's infected or a tail's broken, so yes. So go ahead, say that. Adenitis? What's that?
Adenitis.
So we need somebody that knows what they're talking about. There's inflammation of the gland.
Itis. You think of inflammation, not infection, and itis. I think it's ITIS.
Hey, everybody needs to learn. So here we go to Dr. Wade again for her lead toxicosis. It's diagnosis and clinical cases. She talked a lot about toxic metals, the sources of lead, clinical signs. Lead shot was banned in 1991, but it's still used out there. That's why we see so many birds of prey that are ill because of lead. We all know that older homes, older than 1978, used a lead-based paint. They say that the lead is more of like a sweet taste to it. That's why a lot of kids go for it, and that's why the birds go for it. So, if a lot of people ask me, why aren't your birds chewing down, your casing on your windows and your woodwork? Well, that's because my birds are not allowed near it. So if you have an older house, make sure your birds don't have access to something that may be painted with a lead-based paint. Heavy metal poisoning affects the central nervous system, and toxicosis is a disease of lead poisoning. And hematuria is blood in the stool, often present in grays with lead ingestion. So she talks a little bit about a case where she found out that actually golf tape and plumbing contains lead. She has a great little write-up. You can visit her website. It's on the bottom of the page. You can always refer to this. And it's something we all need to know and very easy to prevent. Okay, so here we are. That was the end of the first day. The auction was called. The finals, and this is just some people in the general area. I believe this is the Amazon room. No, maybe it's the McCall room.
It's the McCall room.
Okay, so everybody's there taking their notes and getting answers to the final questions. And then we start the next day. You can, if you're there with groups, you can go out and you can explore Asheville, Saturday night or Friday night, learn a little bit about their culture there. Next day, we're right back to work. How it pretty much starts is 9 a.m. is your coffee, 9:15, grab your pen, paper, iPad, and go. We already know, we know how it works, start moving. So my first day, my second day, first class, and this is Dr. Bryn McCleary, and a lot of you New Jersey people know her because this is where I would send my people that were down in South Jersey. She's also been great with a lot of the classes or stuff that I did for my clients. So she's a very smart cookie. She's out of Red Bank Veterinary Hospital in Tinton Falls. So we talked a little bit about the respiratory system. Again, this is something that hit me close to home with having to have 2 birds treated for aspergillosis. So we learned about the anatomy, and that's something that really all bird owners should really know because they respond differently to different smells that you shouldn't have in the house and toxins. So, you know, if you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it. There's a lot of different information out there that you could look up. You can refer back to this, learn about it, because I had to have a crash course. So the respiratory system evolved to meet the demands of flight. Respiratory rate for, I believe, younger birds is going to be less than 4 minutes on all species recovery rate. A bird can be 50 to 90% obstructed before showing clinical signs of having respiratory distress. So a lot of times on my page, I'll have people come on and say, oh, my bird's tail, it's going like this, it's pumping when it's breathing or its mouth is open. Get off the computer, get in the car and go to your vet. Okay, that's a bird in respiratory distress. There's something going on there that's not normal. A huge red flag, tracheal issues, hoarse and not speaking. That is my #1 sign that I found with my African gray that I needed to rush into New York City to meet those 3 wonderful vets. Teflon toxicity can cause labor breathing. Fluid in the abdomen caused by eggs, cancer, heart, or liver failure, or trauma can cause labor breathing. I always thought it was going to be 100% lung. I am wrong, so I'm glad I learned that. Keeping old world and new world species together can cause macaw asthma. The signs are kind of similar to hypersensitivity and pneumonitis with humans. It's just not a good idea to have a dusty species along with your macaws. Some are going to be more sensitive than others. So these are some of the ingested toxins, inhaled toxins, all very important stuff. Your respiratory paralysis, if your bird gets a hold of nicotine, is going to be 15 to 45 minutes. I'm pretty sure your vets are farther away from that than that. So keep your cigarettes and that kind of stuff out of the house, away from your birds. CPR can be performed on a parrot, but not as effective, so focus on compressions. I tried, or my husband tried to do CPR on my bird that had Asper that died. I saw him breathing in his mouth. I didn't know about compressions. Again, this is 20 years ago, so we've all learned. Avian medicine is always evolving and changing, and we have to go with it and learn what we can. A fall from a perch can cause fluids to build up in the lungs. So that is good to keep in mind. If you have a bird that's high on a perch and it falls and you think, oh, he's fine, he's walking around, make sure you keep an eye on him. Then we went to Dr. McCleary and we did endocrine diseases and diabetes. And I just love her sense of humor. So that's why that little picture is perfect of her. Okay, so people probably don't realize that parrots can get all these different issues. I was right up there, front row with all my thyroid, issues. So I kind of knew what she was talking about. It's important to know all this stuff and have something going into it if your bird is sick. One of the main things I learned when my bird was so terribly sick, my vets did talk to me a lot in veterinarian talk. And I was young, I was upset, it went right over my head. So I had to go home and do a lot of reading. And I would take what I read and bring to them and saying, is this what I am understanding? And they would tell me yes. that is correct. So I knew how to work along with them. So calcium is needed for the bones and muscles to contract. Electus parrots, the gizzard is not well developed as other species. Metabolic bone disease is used as an umbrella. It kind of covers all disease, kind of like fibromyalgia. I did not know that top head feathers may, if you have a single bird, may be an issue, thyroid issue. And I can tell you that chronic thyroiditis turns into hypothyroidism. So that's some takeaways from there. Now, I'm not going to get into many slides with this because it was more patient, stuff they were doing. So some takeaways here. If you do have a bird that unfortunately passes away, you need to know the right things to do to get your necropsy. So you're going to necropsy when possible. Make sure it's not infectious. If you have other birds in that house or you're bringing other birds in, you have to do the right thing. Make sure the bird is looked at. Make sure it's nothing that is contagious before bringing a new bird in. The breakdown of tissue begins at the time of death. So you want to have your necropsy done within 72 hours, and you want to place the bird, as hard as it is, I've been there, you want to place the bird in the refrigerator only. If the necropsy is going to be done after 72 hours, you can put them in the freezer, but no, it's going to impact the results, okay? Another thing I thought was interesting, many years ago, I would always hear about the megabacteria, how hard it was, resistant to this, resistant to that. I had a lot of clients that came in and talked to me about it, and it's considered avian gastric yeast. So I thought that was very interesting.
Still hard to treat though.
Yeah, yes, I'm very sure. I've met too many people who lost birds to that, and it was just trying one thing after another, and it just didn't work. So then we have Dr. Dalhausen, and we're going to talk about feather destructive behaviors. And being a certified behavior consultant, I have a lot of people that come to me right away and say, my bird's picking, how do I get it to stop? Well, here are your slides, okay? When a bird is feather picking, something is wrong, okay? Feather destructive behavior could be bacterial, fungal, viral, malnutrition, endocrine, parasites, genetic, neoplasia, toxicities. I can't tell you why your bird is plucking without all this information in front of me. So the first thing you do is you go to your vet. They have to do a diagnostic workup because they can't look at your bird and tell you what's going on. They need to see, they need to work on that. This is going to be part of your physical exam. There's different ways a bird can sit there and pluck or chew or barber. What it is not, feather picking, feather destructive behavior, and self-mutilation is not a diagnosis. It is a sign of a disease, problem, or condition, okay? So you could have, if a bird is picking under the wing, thigh, and belly, it could be an allergic pattern. Then if it's chewing on its feet, it could have different problems with its feet. It could have gout. Pulling pin feathers releases endorphins. So, they're getting a high if they're pulling out their pin feathers. I always thought that Giardia was caused by, was the cause of feather loss in cockatiels. It is not. Bilateral or symmetric or medical or hormonal would be your reason there. Your random loss can be behavior, or the bird might have something on psychogenic. V-shape is going to be barbering, okay? That could be behavior, that could be, again, psychogenic. There are active nerves and blood supply in a growing feather. So when a bird pulls a feather out, you see a little bit of blood on it, that is the active blood supply in the feather. A lot of people don't know that and don't realize that. And that's, again, if you're someone that's going to have your vet do wing clipping, that's why they're looking to check the blood supply in each feather before they go clipping. Now, this is always one of my favorite parts. And all the speakers, and when you go, you do have to choose what track you're going to go to. I am drawn to the Phoenix Landing because of the medical track. I can't learn enough, okay, for my birds and for everybody that comes to me. So I regret not being able to see the people that I didn't, but maybe next time. So again, this is my favorite part. You got Susan right there in the middle, and she's got her little wings on each side. And this is a full question and answer period. And it's funny. It makes you laugh to see the banter and the respect and love between these people. You know, they're there to discuss. If you have a question and one is not sure, everybody else chimes in. You get to see the human part of the speakers that were just up there. It's a great time. So this is one of my favorite places to be. And this slide is from Dr. Anthony Pilney, and it's important to always keep in mind, we'll never replicate the environment that captive birds would experience if they were flying freely in their natural habitats. We have an ethical responsibility to provide the best care we can for all birds living in captivity. So that's another one that hit home. So again, this is me and my group that I went down one of the first years. The next wellness retreat is going to be May 18th and 19th, 2024. I will be there. I hope you are too.
Thank you, Lisa. That was terrific.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that gives you, so you saw the dates there for the next one. So that should hopefully give people who are interested and really wanting to attend to save up their time and their savings and get the care for their birds. In the meantime, you got 2 years to prepare for the next one. So it'll definitely be worth it.
One thing that
it's not, I've been to a lot of different shows. I've been all over to 10 different lectures and seminars and conferences. And this is the one I go to every single time. They keep the prices low, so it is affordable. You can't learn this stuff anywhere else. Unless you're a vet and you have your ways to get into conferences like that. But for somebody like me, this is the place to go and learn. And you know, hopefully, everything you learn, hopefully you won't need it, but you may be able to help somebody else.
Definitely, all goes to a good cause.
And I would add, Lisa, that even if you went to like Exotics Con, you would have to go to a master class to have something comparable. And even then it's going to be at a different level, because what we're trying to do is provide it maybe Anna's going to laugh at me, but I'm trying, and others are trying to present information so that the owner can understand what we're saying, as well as the veterinarian. The other thing that I think I failed to mention that we try really hard to do is to provide support for veterinary students to come. I noticed that at the bottom, people were saying, I didn't have a board certified in my state, or, you know, this type of thing. This could be, Laura, another discussion at some other time, but basically, avian medicine is in a crisis time, and there are very few people. Veterinary colleges are cutting out avian programs. Veterinary students don't get that exposure. They have to make a considerable effort to get something. That's why we try to get veterinary students to this conference to start that learning path, like Dr. Lafeber did so long ago to excite me so I could become an avian vet. So that's one of the other things. And I forgot to mention that in the beginning, and I'm sorry. I forgot.
We offer scholarships for the vet students, and Dr. O is really good at writing all the vet schools and telling them. We only had 5 this time, but usually we have more. So
yeah, I just keep calling and whining and complaining. And
well,
there's less and less interest, which is what's scary, you know, in vet schools. So
Yeah. And that's a problem. And someone asked, and there's, problems of getting people board certified. I work with the veterinary residents and those who are trying to become boarded every Thursday night from 8:30 to 10 p.m.
Oh.
And then it gets recorded, and then the European veterinary students in Europe get to hear it the next day.
Right. Well, I was very impressed with, I think it was it Stahl's veterinarian?
Yes, he had a couple residents here. Yep.
And he usually attends as a speaker, but he had a conflict. That's why he's going to be on the Zoom in October, and he will be there next time. He's been on our board also since 2002 or something. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say is so it's interesting. Lisa goes to all the medical ones, and I try to go to the behavior ones and the toy making ones and because I want to know these other things, but I thought Jose and his lectures about what they've been doing in the wild with different species of parrots was absolutely fascinating.
Right.
It was, maybe Laura, you could have him do one of these sometime because
Oh yeah.
We
God,
connect
it
you.
was,
I mean, he's been in Bolivia for 13 years and he just moved to the Macaw Recovery Network, but he's well versed in all of South America and Central America and ties groups together. He's a great scientist and a very good speaker.
I learned an awful lot from what his observations are in the wild, let alone, when you're sitting there listening to him, not when he's lecturing, but he tells you how he almost gets killed, and get kidnapped and all this other stuff, these bird traffickers and all the other things that happen. Oh,
There's
boy,
so
that
much,
kid's
right?
risked his life, truly risked his life for parrots. It's amazing.
Wow. Oh my goodness. We have a lot of people just very excited to have you guys join us today, just looking at our chats here. I think we lost Lisa. Did we lose Lisa?
Oh, come back, Lisa.
We're out of time. So I have a couple of that. Well, once again, I can't even explain. I mean, I can't express how wonderful it is for you guys to spend. I mean, you guys just do so much for the bird community, far beyond what mere humans are capable of. And you guys just have this energy and this passion, and it's truly admirable. From what you what you
Takes
guys
a village, takes all of us, right?
Takes a village. Yeah, and so that's why Ann and I have a date for the next one. Can we do this again?
It's
I was a
long
little
work.
concerned, honestly, if I could come because I've had some heart issues. So 2 years from now, boy, I gotta keep working on this.
We're locked in on a date so that you have to be able to come.
Exactly.
It's a requirement.
Gotta keep working on it.
You got your gold date right there. That's right. So hey, I'm going to I have to know we have a winner of our giveaway today, so I got to announce who that is, and that is going out to Laura Berkeley. You're going to get the foraging pack, the Lafeber foraging.
Oh, good.
There we go. Different foods for your different Lafeber. Hope that comes for your bird to try, and the Lafeber office will reach out to you to get your contact information, and then you also get to choose another Lafeber product for your bird. So yay! Hope that makes your weekend, Lori. Also, wanted to announce what we have coming up. So we have a little break for 2 weeks, and we're back second week in September with Dr. Lamb. She's going to talk about. Let's see, where did that go? I just lost my screen.
Kidney.
Kidney. Thank you, Brent. Kidney disease in parrots, another important topic. And then Lisa Bono is going to be joining us again for an exercise inspired webinar on how to get your birds up and moving. So.
Wait a minute. She's talking about kidneys at our retreat. She's doing this early for Lafeber. Yeah, she's going to talk in October at our Zoom retreat, and it's kind of kidney focused. So
okay.
A common problem for a lot of birds. So if you have any issues with the kidney, we encourage you to sign up for our retreat in October. And there's going to be another speaker talking about ingestion of fabrics and things like that, which is very interesting for people with conures and smaller birds especially.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's something that's been talked about lately, and it's I definitely.
October 2nd.
Okay, and so if you go back, if you watch the recording of this webinar, you'll see the contact information for the Phoenix Landing to get to those webinars that she's talking about, as well as just general information about Phoenix Landing. So
Thank you.
on that note, I'm gonna sign us off here. I want to just thank you guys for joining us today again. It's always a pleasure.
Well, you're welcome, but I want to thank everybody who joined, and just remember, we're all parrot people. We all gotta work together. We gotta flock together to help the lives of our parrots. So thank you for coming.
We're a small but mighty community, so we'll continue that vibe. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
all right,
Thanks.
guys. On that note, everyone have a fabulous weekend. All the best to you and your flock, and everyone stay safe. Bye.
Okay, bye.